Hello, my name is Andrew Todd, and I'm here today to introduce you to our main speaker, Roger Rule. Some of you know him from his 7 books. For those who don't, we are focusing today on his main book, The Rifleman's Rifle, which is a treatise on the Winchester's rifle, the Model 70. Is that correct, Roger?
That's correct. Specifically, Winchester's rifle Model 70, made from 1936 to 1963. And most people in the industry just call it the Pre-64 Model 70.
And this book has been in print for 35 years?
Yes, it's in its 3rd edition. You can find it on my website, rogerrule.com. And on that website, you'll see a lot of renowned writers' reviews of that book. Probably my favorites is R.L. Wilson's quote out of his own book, Winchester, an American Legend. And I'm going to quote it here, reading the quote. "A Model 70 book with exhaustive information is Roger Rule's The Rifleman's Rifle, a tome every Model 70 collector must have." End of quote.
And so before writing this book, you collected the Pre-64 Model 70s?
Oh yeah. Clear back in 1967, only 4 years after it was discontinued, I got interested in it, but the problem was I was a teacher and I had a teacher's income and there was no way I could afford collecting them. But I did run around to gun shows and gun stores in Kansas City, Missouri, where I was teaching, and realized I couldn't find any. And I was surprised at that. The U.S. Army took me to California and about 2 years later, and out there, when I went to gun shows, I saw a lot of them, which made me realize it's a prevalent rifle on the West Coast where it's long distance shooting, as compared to Kansas City is probably a woods and field kind of rifle. I stayed in California after the Army and got my contractor's license, and then I started a business of construction and development, and in time it became lucrative enough that I could start collecting Model 70s.
So gun shows became your main source then?
At first, then I was introduced to Shotgun News and the Gun List, and I ran an ad, a curious ad, that said, Model 70 collector will pay through the nose for collectible Model 70s. And by this time I got to know some of the other Model 70 collectors, and some of them tried me a little dig about that ad. But instead of being a tough negotiator, I took the opposite approach. And you can imagine the calls I got from that.
I bet.
So, in fact, I bought my first 9mm standard rifle from that ad, paid $9,000 for it in 1976, and may sound like I'm bragging about that, but there's a significance that I need to tell you, because a few months after I bought it, I was talking to a fellow collector in back east somewhere, I can't remember now, and he said, in the middle of the conversation, "I can't believe some nut out in California paid $9,000 for a Model 70. And I was thinking, oh, you're talking to the nut. But that ad led me to collect the 35 Remington Super Grade, the 250 Savage Super Grade, and also the 7mm Super Grade, and later on some other guns. But that was the benefit of that ad.
So you were talking to other collectors?
Oh yeah, we developed a large brotherhood of collectors. We'd talk long discussions at night and talk about our guns. We did some trades, discuss what was wrong with some guns and what wasn't, and just a large group. But pretty soon, pretty soon I had young collectors, or new collectors, not younger than me, but new collectors, calling me. And one night, this one guy, calling Larry in Pennsylvania, not sure I remember his name, but he said near the end of the phone conversation, "You ought to write a book." And I said, "Oh yeah, I'm sure. I've got so much time with all my construction going on. I don't know, I was being glib and I thought he caught it, but about 2 months later, I get a call from, that guy was in Pennsylvania. I get a call from another collector in Oregon, and in the middle of that conversation, he said, "I hear you're writing a book." And I went, "Oh, you must have talked to Larry in Pennsylvania." And he said, "No, Jeremy in Florida." And I go, "Oh my goodness." So all the collectors that I knew were beginning to think that I was writing a book.
So all rumors led to you writing it.
Yeah, the rumors led to it, but probably the catalyst that triggered it was the fact that the interest rates went sky high in the early 1980s, and I had a big slump in my business. It stopped all construction and development, and what little inventory I had just rented it out and became a property manager and just trying to survive. And I had a large collection by then, if I do say so myself, and I do. For instance, I had all the calibers, and I had the rare 3 calibers that most people never see, the 30-30, the 9mm, as I've already said, and the 7.65 by 5.3. I had serial number 2. Serial number 1 was considered in John Olam's collection, but I don't know if that was ever verified. I had engraved guns and lots of special order guns. So I had a large collection. I had a lot of money in it, and I thought because of that I might have to sell it to survive this business, which was a horrible thought. You know, you spend so much time putting all this together, and you love your collection, and thought of just selling it's crazy, but I knew I might have to. So it sort of all came together. If I wrote a book, I would sort of have a photographic album of my guns, and so that I could sell them if I had to, and all of a sudden I had time on my hands to do it, and that's what triggered it.
So you used your knowledge that you had acquired and your collection to write your books?
Well, that started it, and I thought that might be, I couldn't use the collection in case something, wasn't as accurate as I thought. I knew I needed inroads to Winchester's records, and I needed to talk to, or if I could, interview the managers that had worked on the guns, and so I was able to do that. I got a hold of an in-house engineer who helped me arrange the appointments by telephone. He helped me discover records. He sent me copies of records, and it took about a year to write that book. And this was before the internet, so I was using yellow tablets, and my secretary was typing chapters, getting them ready for the publisher. And at that time we had 3. We were lucky enough from my inquiries that we had 3 publishers offering to publish the book.
So why was this gun so sought after and collectible from the beginning?
That's a good question. We probably should have had that at the beginning of the episode here. The Model 70, Pre-64 Model 70, was basically a takeoff of the 1898 Mauser. It's the bigger picture of that is that it's control feed mechanism versus the gun they replaced it with, the 63 Model 70, or the post-63 Model 70, which is a push feed mechanism. And the difference is that in a push feed, if the rifle it's gravity, it relies on gravity, and if the rifle is tilted, the cartridge can literally fall out of the magazine as the round is being chambered. And push feeds are known for double malfunctions. Let me demonstrate. This is an important feature to big game hunters and professional hunters who have relying on a control feed bolt action to pass their tests, or they have to use a double rifle. This, to explain what control feed is, I'm opening this up, I'm checking that it's safe, and I'm taking the bolt out by pressing down the bolt release or bolt stop, it's sometimes called. Set the rifle down. Here's a long extractor. This is from Mauser, 1898. Springfield had the same thing. Winchester borrowed it from them. And I've put what's called a snap cap. It's not a real cartridge, it's a fake cartridge, but it's the same size and shape as the cartridge that goes in the gun. And you can see the bolt holds it in every respect by the extractor and the notch in the lug on the left side. So that's what control feed is. If you try to do that with push feed bolt, it just, well, it wouldn't stick to the bolt at all. It'd fall right down. And loading it just goes right in there, goes forward, and pops it out. So that's very important. The only guns left on the market after Winchester changed that was a Browning high power, but they were quick to change theirs. Then Browning high power was basically a Mauser 1898. It was a commercial Mauser, and this was changed in '64. Mauser changed theirs. Browning changed their Mauser version in '65, '66. So right afterwards, and the new action on the Browning was push feed. So at that time in the late '60s, there weren't any push feed. Control feed rifles left. All were push feed. Remingtons, Weatherbys, Winchester and Browning by then, and even the new Sokol line from Finland were push feed.
So that led to the change and reason for why the collectors went after it?
Well, that was actually what I think is the main reason, but a lot of them may not have understood it. If you looked at a post 64 or post 63 model 70, the one that followed this one, and the earliest ones were just horribly looking. They had stamped checkering. Some of them were black, almost looked like branded checkering. The wood was ugly. The metal was ugly. Then of course it was push feed. And Winchester they tried to keep the price points where it was by cutting corners instead of keeping the quality up. That was a big mistake. They rectified that in 1992, some 28 years later. But the post 63 rifle was just so ugly, and so many magazine articles just picked up on that. And there were these exaggerated metaphors all over the place. One I remember was one writer wrote, the barrel to stock channel was so bad you could navigate a cockroach through it. And those kinds of write-ups, promoted actually the Pre-64 gun, and started hunters looking for them. And hunters, and I was one of those who, after realizing there were no other control feed guns on the market, I started collecting more and more Model 70s and turned into a collector, which I think a lot of hunters did. That's how a lot of collectors got started in this. At that time, since there were no control feed guns, if you didn't buy a used Model 70 or used Browning, then the custom market kind of picked back up. Way back after World War I, when there was no commercial bolt-action rifles on the market, there were so many surplus Mausers and Springfields that custom makers jumped in and made control feed custom bolt actions. And then when Winchester came out with the Model 54, followed by the Model 70, that kind of slowed down. Here again, now in the late 60s, that custom market picked back up. Those early makers like Griffin and Howell and Sedgley and Hoffman were replaced by Al Beeson and Roger Green and quite a few other very good custom makers.
And so you said that this Model 70 was an improved Mauser?
Yes, it is. It is an improved Mauser. It's got an it's got a speed lock. I have to think about it a minute. It has a better bolt release. It has an override trigger, and it's got a stiffer action. Winchester did a lot of research on making it a stiffer action and finding out it was more accurate by putting the hole in the front action screw in the flatbed of the action instead of in the recoil lug. And those reasons alone made it much more refined than a Mauser 98.
So, what is it that collectors collect? The different calibers?
Well, that's how I started, and that was I even went after the keys first to see if I could get them, and the harder ones first. And there actually were 18 calibers that were cataloged during 1936 to 37. There's a little discrepancy about actually when the first Model 70 came out. He worked on them, built them in 36, but sort of released them in 37. And then up until 63, they had 18 calibers. They started with 9 initially, and those were in order of size, starting with a diminutive 22 Hornet, 220 Swift, 250 Savage, 257 Roberts, 270 Winchester, 7mm Mauser, 30-06, 300 H&H Magnum, and 375 H&H Magnum. And then, through the years, they added 9 more. And those 9, in the order of that they added them, 1941 they added the 35 Remington, 1946 they added the 300 Savage, just for a short time. 1952 they added the 308 Winchester. 1955 they added the 243 and the 358 Winchester. 1956 they added the 458 Winchester Magnum for their elephant gun, for their large, dangerous animal gun. 1960 they added 2 more high-power calibers, the 264 Win Mag and the 338 Win Mag. And then in the final year, 1963, they came out with the 300 Win Mag that everybody in the gun business, gun world, had expected to come out even sooner, because Weatherby had had such a success with a 300 Magnum.
So, what else is there?
To collect?
Yes, sir.
Styles and evolutionary types. Styles are like, the way the gun looks. And for instance, when they initially started, they had 6 styles. They had the standard rifle like we have here in front of us. They had a short barrel version of it they called the short rifle, but collectors call it the carbine. And then they had a deluxe version of it called the super grade. Winchester dubbed it the super grade. They also had 3 competition styles. They had the heavy bull gun, they had the lighter target model, still had what we consider a heavy barrel, and then had the very lightweight barrel on the national match model. And those were the initial ones. Then over the years, they added 8 more styles. In my book, I get pretty involved in explaining the complexity of that, because I have to call them styles and sub-styles to make them make sense. But because Winchester sort of overlap things. The first ones out in the new styles were the featherweight in 1952, then the varmint rifle in 55, and the featherweight super grade in 1955, the African in 1956, and the Westerner in 1960, the Alaskan in 1960. Well, actually, the Alaskan came out in 1959, but it was only offered in 375 H&H. In 1960, they added the 338 Win Mag. And in 1962, the featherweight Westerner, which was just taking a featherweight and making a 264 Win Mag, but they put a recoil pad on it, changed the style. And then finally, the 300 Win Mag came out, what was called the Alaskan, the Westerner/Alaskan. And that was the styles, so you could collect all those styles. Then there were evolutionary types. For instance, in the early years, the action was made a little different. And then it changed to another action, which we call type 2, and then it changed to another action, which we call type 3. And those are more commonly in the gun industry called pre-war, transition, and post-war. But those are really improper names because the pre-war was made from 1936 to 1947, and of course the war had ended in 45. That was World War II we're talking about. The transition was made 47, 48, and then that was type 2, and the type 3 was 48 to 63 at the end. And there were variations in those types. So, I mean, you can collect a huge amount of vast array of guns to if you go after calibers, styles, and types.
Wow, so that definitely makes for quite a matrix to collect.
Well, yeah, they didn't really offer every caliber and every style and every caliber and style and every type, but there's still a large array. And there were, you could even go further. There were different caliber designations. There were different steel types per caliber. It gets almost endless. So you're right. You're exactly right. A matrix is a good answer, a good description of it.
And so we have a couple rifles here to look at.
Yes, I'm new to YouTube, but my intention is to create several episodes of special guns with Roger Rule, with emphasis on a specific gun. And I would be remiss if I didn't start with Winchester Pre-64 Model 70 because that's what I'm most known for. And I've been a guest speaker to the American National Rifle Association's annual meetings. I've been on television about it, and I've had been the focus of many magazine articles. So that's why I chose this one today. In future episodes, I'll have less about me and more about the guns I want to feature. And because I knew I would need much time just to introduce the Winchester Pre-64 Model 70, I have only chosen 2 rifles that I want to show you today for a simple introduction to a complex field, really. Step over here and let's look at the 2 guns I've chosen to feature today. 2 from the same era in the same caliber so that you can see the obvious style differences that I'll point out without getting confused with the evolutionary changes or caliber idiosyncrasies like barrel length and barrel steel differences. I expect to cover those in later episodes. Here we have the first rifle, a standard rifle. It's in .270 caliber. Its serial number range is in 124,000. It's built in 1949. It's an early type 3. Note the oval tang, solid bolt knob, the flat breech bolt sleeve, and you can't see it here, but it's got the undercut bolt stop, which are the 4 identifiers that it's type 3 variation 1. The magazine capacity is 5 rounds for standard calibers and 4 rounds for magnum calibers. For those of you that are not familiar with the Model 70 safety, this is the 3rd variation safety, and it has become it's become a world standard. Actually, is used in nearly every custom-made gun today. It's even used by Mauser in their new rifles. But other companies who don't want to call it a Winchester Model 70 safety just identify it as a 3-position side swing safety. The reason it's liked so well is because of 3 positions. In position 1, which is what you see here, it's in the fire position. Position 2 is halfway back, is in the, it's still safe, but you can operate the bolt to load and unload it. And in position 3, all the way back, is in the full safe position and the bolt won't operate. And in addition to the 3-position, it's a friendly, user-friendly safety location, operates well under scope. Back to our rifles, this standard rifle has a 1-piece stock. It's made of American black walnut with warm brown color. This is typical. It has a classic comb. It's fluted with pistol grip, and it's hand checkered in 18 lines per inch. Length of pull from the trigger to the center of the butt plate is 13.5 inches, standard on all Winchester Model 70s. There is no cheek piece on this side of the stock. Also note the checkering is not wraparound. It doesn't wrap over it. It does not go over the wrist, and it does not go around the underside of the forearm. And there is no pistol grip cap, nor is there any forearm tip. The finish is actually lacquer, but it's finished with such finesse that it tends to give it an oiled finish look. The butt plate is checkered steel with an inlaid widow's peak at the heel. The barrel length was typically 24 inches for most calibers, which is what this one is. This one has an integral muzzle ramp. I'll pick that up and show you. The ramp is part of the barrel. It's not soldered on, it's not screwed on. It was actually made into the barrel. And this is ramp number 2 in my book, which is correct for this rifle's age. The front sight mounted on the ramp is a Winchester 103C with a silver bead. The hood on this particular rifle is incorrect. It shows it's an aftermarket hood. It's angled here. It should have been angled here too, which the other rifle has, and I'll show you there. And I've got it slid forward on purpose so you can see the front sight. Besides the sight cover, the sling swivels are not original. It has the Uncle Mike type quick detachable sling studs for Uncle Mike sling swivels. Winchesters were different than that. The scope is a Leupold VX3 3.5 to 10 variable with 50 millimeter objective lens, which is a little late for this period, but it's mounted in Redfield JR rings and base made specifically for Model 70's original factory holes. The wood finish is detailed in my book on pages 150 to 151, but for brevity here, the stock on this standard rifle is finished by hand, sanded, stained, sealed with lacquer, filled with dark filler, rubbed down, and finished with several coats of lacquer that has an additive of carnauba wax that gives it that oil finish look. For the metal finish, I go in great detail in my book on pages 130 to 131 and pages 166 to 167. But for simplicity here, the blue parts of this rifle were blued with Dulite black oxide process with 2 separate baths at different temperatures and rinsed in oil. For inscriptions, on the left side of the receiver is the word Winchester in their stylized logo lettering with the words trademark under it. There is a Winchester proof mark at the chamber end of the action, and also on the left side of the barrel next to the action is another Winchester proof mark. Further forward on the left of the barrel is the inscription made in New Haven, Connecticut, US of America, and under that the words Winchester proof steel. Further forward on the left side of the barrel is the inscription made in New Haven, Connecticut, US of America, and under that the words Winchester proof steel. Working our way back towards the action is the next Winchester trademark, followed by 270 WCF for Winchester centerfire, the way they coded it back then. And on the right side of the action, front receiver ring, is the serial number. On top of the bolt sleeve toward the front end is the word fire instead of safe like miniguns have. That's it on the inscriptions. For years I had a standard rifle just like this in 270 Winchester, and after I worked up the best load for it, it shot groups it could hide under a quarter at 100 yards from a bench rest. I started with an accuracy load recommended in Lyman's reloading manual and loaded groups of 5 rounds with 1/2 grain differences up to a maximum recommended level, and discovered that 55.5 grains of IMR 4350 for my Sierra 130 grain boat tail or my 130 grain Nosler partition bullets performed the same and were the most accurate. Okay, enough about this rifle. Now compare it to the second rifle I have here, which is in the serial number range of 161,000, made a year later in 1950. This rifle is also chambered in 270 Winchester with a 24-inch barrel. It's also a Type 3 Variation 1, again with the oval tang, solid bolt knob, the flat bolt sleeve, and the notched bolt stop that you can't see here. However, the rifle contrasts with the first one because it's a super grade, the deluxe model. The distinguishing features are, first of all, the super grade stock. Again, it's made of one-piece American black walnut. However, usually the figure of the grain is more interesting in the super grades. As you can see here, this one it has. And note the checkering runs over the wrist, forming a diamond shape in the wrist, and it wraps around the forearm, making a diamond shape around the forearm screw. The stock shape also has an integral cheek piece on the left side for a right-handed shooter. And it's a classic comb, which is that's why it had the small cheek piece as opposed to the Monte Carlo, which was a higher comb and it had a bigger, more fully formed cheek piece. We don't have that rifle here today. It has a forearm tip, which is different than from the standard grade. And in Winchester used a product called Bakelite that resembled ebony and was their own product. For the pistol grip cap, they used a pistol grip cap that's different than the standard rifle. And early ones had rubber. This one, and by 1950, they were changing to steel. This one has the steel type. It has the same butt plate with the widow's peak. The super grade finish, the stock was finished the same way as a standard rifle, but for the metal, many super grades after 1955 differed from the standard rifle by being blued with the old rust bluing process as opposed to the black oxide process. This rifle's barrel was blued with the black oxide process, which is correct for its age. The three final differences are that the floor plate is stamped super grade and the stock is inlaid front and rear with 2 screw sling swivel bases for Winchester's own factory-made swivels, which were much wider than the typical Uncle Mike's. And while I have it upside down, you can see the pistol grip cap. When we turn it back over, the third thing that I want to mention, oops, set that in wrong. is the front sight. This rifle has a Winchester 103C gold bead that is commonly found on super grades from 1942 to 1950. The inscriptions on this super grade are identical to the standard rifle, except the caliber designation on this gun is 270 Win, W-I-N, instead of 270 WCF, which stood for Winchester Centerfire. And of course the serial number is different, and the floor plate with the word super grade stamped on it as opposed to the plain floor plate on the standard rifle. The scope is a high-end Austrian-made Carl Kalis 3-9 by 42 matte finish with fine duplex reticle mounted again with Redfield JR base and rings. This system mounts the scope low for a low comb stock and is a proven system that I have found to maintain the highest level of accuracy. Let me pause here and explain something. When it comes to the Winchester Pre-64 Model 70, I believe and have always believed that it's the very best of what we refer to as rifles made by mass production. Its many parts were made in various different shops, and some of these parts were assembled in various shops, all moving along a course to its final step in assembly and inspection. That's the very definition of mass production. The difference between this rifle and others by other manufacturers is that many of the steps in the production process required talented workers who had to perform some skilled gunsmith function. Bedding is an example. Another is fitting the safety to the bolt assembly. If you try to swap out a Model 70 safety, most of the time you'll find the second safety does not function as smoothly, and sometimes not at all, compared to the original one. That was because of the handwork involved. And there were many other areas of the production that required skilled handwork. So even though it was mass produced, there was enough handwork involved that actually placed the Pre-64 Model 70 into a category of its own. Winchester only made less than 600,000 of the Pre-64 Model 70s. Today, all the new Winchester Model 70s are control feed, as reintroduced in 1992. And there's a lot of other ones on the market now, the fine CZ 550 line, the Sacco 85, the Kimber 84/8400, and the Ruger 77 Hawkeye. But you would be hard-pressed to find any of these new guns made with the same diligence and voluminous, skilled hand work as went into the Pre-64 Model 70. It is still a classic icon of the American-made rifle. This concludes this episode of Special Guns with Roger Rule. Thank you, Andrew, for joining, and you viewers for watching, and I hope you subscribe to my channel and share with others and watch episode 2 next week. Thank you again. If you want to get involved with these types of guns, I recommend GunsInternational.com. The owners are great people. I know them and have been using their website since they started. I find it the best source for both buying and selling any great collectible gun.